Yo, it's Nick. Let's get going. If you got your story, break it out. I'm working on Deepriver in the Shadows of Lordaeron. I was at the gym today and I was listening to a kick-ass song. Hold on. I gotta share that with you. I can't. So check this out. So when I'm writing stories, what I like to do is find a song that matches the emotion and tempo of the story or the scene that I'm trying to write, as you might see it or hear it in a movie, right? In one of the scenes, Sal'journ Deepriver, the Tauren Death Knight, it's sort of like a fast cut to him fighting Scourge in order to save his travel partner. Well, it's a fast cut through the fight to the very end of it where she gets captured and taken away. And he's just thrown the rest of this scouting party of Scourge off of him, basically. And he sees her fading away into the distance as they carry her off. And he knows he can't catch up to them. And so what he does is he rips open a death gate, which he's never done in the story. This is something Death Knights can do in World of Warcraft. They open a death gate, which takes them straight to Arcturus, which is the Death Knight sort of capital, right, of the Ebon Blade. So there's a whole lot of context to why that's important, and this will be the first time in the story that the Ebon Blade's even mentioned, I think. But in effect, Death Knights in the World of Warcraft universe all fall, the good ones all sort of swear fealty to the Ebon Blade. Because if they don't, the Ebon Blade, these Death Knights who are trying to preserve their existence from the rest of Azeroth, who wants them dead because of the Lich King and the war they just fought against these folks, they go around hunting rogue Death Knights who are not a member of the Ebon Blade. And in this case, this character is Sal'journ. He's not a member of the Ebon Blade, but he's always had the ability to go back to Arcturus. Well, the chapter is going to be titled Striking a Deal or something to that effect. But from the pile of Scourge bodies that he was just fighting, he sees his travel partner being carried off in the distance, and he knows he needs help because of where they're taking her. So he tears open a death gate and marches through it into Arcturus, where all the Death Knights there are just like surrounding him, watching him march past them with his head up. They all know he's like one of the most wanted Death Knights because in his time as a Scourge, he was a Death Knight captain. So he was he was like a commander of a company of what's a military scale for Scourge? I don't know, but he was a high rank, mid-level ranking Scourge commander under the Lich King while he was enslaved. Right. And that's sort of the angle I'm taking with this story, which is different from most Death Knights when they do their art roleplay background, in that most people who play a Death Knight and create their background, they can't remember their living life. All they remember is being a Death Knight. So they're always these edgy folks. In contrast, the way I'm writing Sal'journ, he can only remember his living life. He can't remember his time as Scourge. Because he was possessed by the Lich King, basically. So he wakes up into this nightmare in which he's a Death Knight. Anyways, so they're watching him walk past. They know he's sort of a rogue agent. And so they're all just waiting to see what he's going to do because they're as shocked as anyone or as even himself that he's there. And he's going to march right up to, I think the guy's name was Thorin. I got to look that up. But he marches up to the leader of the Ebon Blade, and he offers himself to join in return for them to help do X. And so that's one of the scenes. Anyways, this is the song that I was listening to for that. By the way, this is great to work out too. So this is all him kind of watching the distance, what's going on. Getting pissed off. So this would be him throwing bodies off him. Basically getting into a clearing. Kind of fighting with himself because he knows what he needs to do. He just doesn't want to, right? I guess this would be him marching through Arcarus after he's opened up the Death Gate. And that voice, that woman in the background that's singing, it ties thematically into another scene, and I'll play that song next. I'm yelling into the microphone because my headset's so loud. So there's that one, right? So that song is like perfect for that scene. Although this was the alternate. So it's here that he'd be walking through the portal. So that song's that's a pretty heavy song, but I think I like the other one more because it's got the woman in the background. I'll only play that one more time, not the whole song. So it's got her, right? Another scene that I'm working on, or that I've mostly written. Hold on, I'm looking for my library here. Here we go. So it's not that it's the same woman, but it's the same kind of theme where it's almost African or Egyptian. You might, or Saudi Arabian, Middle Eastern. It kind of has that vibe. But Arcarus is effectively a floating. Is it a ziggurat? It's not a ziggurat, but it's It's a floating acropolis. It looks like a floating pyramid with multiple steps. Anyways, yeah, so I thought that song was awesome. I just wanted to share that real quick. Oh, I see what's going on. My bad. Okay, so anyway. That was interesting. All right. Oh. Anyways, I guess to bring this full circle, at the gym, I thought of one of that song. Two, there's a scene, a chapter I wrote that I need to move. Here we go. Remember to save your work. This right here, this is what I gotta edit right here. Also on the stream, I did something different here. I'm going to test it right now. Whoops. Yeah, okay. Cool. Heh. I like it. I spent a long time trying to learn how to get live chat to show up in the stream using Rumble. I just, one lucky Google search today made it all happen. There's a lot more prep to it than if you're just streaming on Twitch, but that's okay. So Sal'journ is a tauren. If you don't know what a tauren is, it's basically a minotaur. A little bit less, shall we say, feral than a minotaur. Their tauren are more civilized, and Blizzard, the writers for Blizzard, crafted tauren after Native Americans, and so it's kind of, tauren have like this affinity for nature and earth, and which Azeroth, and so he's got long hair. He's the picture in the thumbnail. Not my picture, but it may as well be. It's perfect. I'm struggling a little bit on these two lines here because it was really in the last hour I decided this needed to be edited. This was supposed to be the end of this chapter, but it's actually a segue into the next chapter, in which you've got the Shadows of Lordaeron returning to the city of Lordaeron, and then you've got Sal'journ, who arrives at the same time as them, revealing that he's there with them at the end of this chapter. So this is all a memory. And if I could, I would think of a better transition. I kind of want it to be abrupt, where you have this memory of baby Sal'journ and sort of this weird backstory for him, and because the story is about him, he's the main character, and so it's sort of priming the audience to understand this character and his background. And it's jarring to go from that narrative to where he is now, right? And throughout the story, there's 3 specific chapters that cover Sal'journ's origin story, basically. And those 3 chapters are spread out throughout the story. Those 3 narratives are spread out throughout the story, with the 3rd chapter of his origin story being just prior to the final battle, in which he ends up sacrificing himself for his friends and the city of Silvermoon. Very dramatic. Okay. So for this scene, let's go. He has a memory. He doesn't like the memory, so he's shaking his head to get it out. It's really wordy, but we'll come back to it. So the Hearthstone is a cool, sort of a cool story device. In the game World of Warcraft, a Hearthstone is a rock that you link to an inn, and that's how you go home, right? So if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you can use your Hearthstone to return home. Well, in the story, what I've done is I've taken his Hearthstone in particular, and it's linked to his parents' or his mother's Hearthstone. And that's something that in his prelude chapter is given to his brother, for his brother to take care of him as their father goes off to fight the Third War, or the Second War, the Third War, Second War. I got to do my research on that. Anyways, so their father goes off to fight, and Mulgris, which is it Mulgris? Yeah, Mulgris is his brother. Mulgris ends up passing the Hearthstone to Sal'journ during a battle, and that's the battle in which Sal'journ is turned into a Death Knight. Anyways, the Hearthstone, when it's given to him as a child, whenever the parents wanted the brothers to return home, they would rub it, activate it, and the Hearthstone would glow, and that would be the indication that they're being summoned home. And so they would use it together to return home. Well, ever since Sal'journ joined the Cenarian Circle and went to fight the Scourge during the Third War. Okay, so it was probably the Second War. Or just some Tauren tribal war that might be fun to explore at some point. Oh, they're fighting the Centaur. That's what they were doing. Yeah, Centaur in World of Warcraft butcher the Tauren. Anyways, Sal'journ the Death Knight still has that hearthstone around his neck, and it's still glowing. So throughout the story, I suppose readers that are taking note of that minor detail will note that he's being summoned home, but he's not going home. And it's never outlined, I don't think, verbatim or specifically. But Sal'journ sort of has like this deep shame for being a Death Knight, and he can't bring himself to return home, right? He wants to, but he can't. And, you know, we could explore whether or not the mom would accept him. I'm sure she would. That's how moms are. But he wants to go home, but he can't. And so this Hearthstone as a device within the story presents itself several times in these key roles. The last one being where he gives it to a pair of blood elves that he's saving because they're about to be they're used as bait by Killingfield, Executor Killingfield, which is another character within the Shadows of Lordaeron. He's their leader. And to save them, he gives it to those two. They use it, and their perception of their environment goes from a muggy Lordaeron, execution stand to a field in Mulgore, which is the Tauren homeland, with like grasses, right? Like just prairie grass blowing in breeze, clear night sky. They're at like a campsite with a fire, and there's a tent that's open. And so he sends them home with his Hearthstone. And so it's at that moment where Sal'journ starts to go from sort of this self-pitying, woe is me, life isn't fair sort of attitude. And that's where he starts making decisions that are for the benefit of others rather than for himself. And so that kind of kicks off his return to his, shall we say, humanity at that point. He shrugs off the "what has life done to me" attitude and starts taking ownership for his behavior and actions, and not trying to make amends, but I suppose trying to make a difference. So anyways, the Hearthstone's a very important device within the story. The Sal'journ? That's not right. What's it called when you got a bunch of cloth in front of you? It's not a scarf. It's not what I'm thinking. This is good. Looks incomplete, but in truth, it's like, all right, cool. I have a scene that I wrote years ago. This is many years ago at this point. But now it's more neatly packed into the larger narrative that I've started writing. I'm gonna move another chapter. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I have an origin scene and a sort of current scene, and they're of Sal'journ doing similar actions for the same reasons. So it's at the point at which he's making choices towards regaining his humanity, and then the origin story chapter is how he was behaving at his prime as a Tauren of the Cenarian Circle. And so what I'm trying to think of now is, do I want to put the origin story before the modern story so that the audiences can see that, can sort of understand Sal'journ's mindset in the modern? Or would it be more fun to have the modern story happen first, leave the audience wondering why he made that decision, and then have the background story after the fact answering that question? I think I like before. I like the context that you get by doing it before. Well, but then the reader's going to want to know why he did that. It might be more gripping for the reader to do it after the fact, because they're going to wonder, what is he thinking? But this isn't a mystery story either. It's a pretty straightforward story. So I'll do the prologue before the modern scene, and that way the audience has the context for him making those sorts of decisions. Cool. I like it. The reason there's YouTube links is because what I've written, a lot of it originated from my TRP on World of Warcraft, which is it's an add-on where when you log in, you have your TRP installed. Players who also have TRP can hover over your character, and your narrative that you've written for your character pops up on their screen, and they can click it and read your story. So this is where this all originated from back in the day. This Dark Ranger is one of the main characters as well. I haven't told you about her yet, but we'll get to her. I just call her Dark Ranger. But she's gonna have a name because she's one of the main characters, because she has a backstory in which explains her hatred for Sal'journ. She blames him for her becoming Forsaken while he was Scourge. So it adds a little conflict to his story. A little, I mean, his mother ends up getting smoked, but that's the chapter I was talking about. I wasn't sure which song to use. We'll get there. Got quite a bit going on here. We're getting there. Almost 30 pages. It's a lot of fun taking what was once a small solo character's little intro story and turning it into a full-blown narrative. Question is what I want to do now. Another character I need to introduce is Herzax. He's a Volpera. He's a disciplined priest, and the reason he matters is because he contributes ultimately to the weapon that they use to defeat the big bad, which is effectively a light bomb. That's what they use to slay their old friend Zeko, who succumbs to a thirst for immortality, or a desperation for immortality, and tries to convert himself to a lich, change himself to a lich, and in doing so, he becomes a big bad and a threat to Silver Moon. And I'm still working through why would they care if Silver Moon was threatened, and I gotta link it to I think there's 2 or 3 Blood Elf Dark Rangers. There's a Death Knight. There's a Death Knight, a Scourge, and a Dark Ranger. And I have to figure it out a little bit more, but the Shadows end up deciding Silver Moon's worth saving, and it's worth saving, and Zeko can't continue his rampage because it'll get all the Forsaken killed again. That's what it is. We'll have them really more or less worried that he's going to trigger another round of like retribution against the Forsaken after they've just found, they've just gotten out of everyone else's sort of peripheral vision following Sylvanas' slaughtering of everyone using the Forsaken and the Horde. Anyways, Herzax is responsible for basically using his Power Word shield as a containment for this life bomb that the shamans helped put together. I got to get a little bit smarter on that, but that's the idea. They set a trap, and he plays a role in building that trap. The reason I'm highlighting this is just to make it easier to see that it's not a finished product. Herzax is sort of my Deadpool of the story too, the comic relief. He's gonna break the fourth wall a few times, and so, oh, that's right. There's a lot. Oh my gosh, there's so much more I have to write. My God. Gotta get out my character sticky notes. Where'd they go? Why do they keep minimizing? That's super annoying. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about what I've got for tonight. Again, this is Let's Write Tonight. The idea of this stream is to get folks like myself out there who have a story that they've not written. This is sort of to get you motivated to start getting that going. It's something that I've learned to sort of take note of is, you know, you put so much time and energy into your job or your other responsibilities that you lose sight of your own personal goals and dreams that you once had. And, you know, life is short. Time is short. You got to make the most of your day. And so if you've got a dream to write, you know, the whole point of this channel is to encourage you to make time to do that and to do that with me. On our website for Ko-Fi, if you're willing, the donations are awesome there. What I've hosted there for free is a Hero's Journey planner. I based this off of another website, but in effect, all I did was take their Hero's Journey template in terms of like the steps for the Hero's Journey and added the block in which you can fill in your character's journey. And so this is a good way to sort of outline your story in a visual way so that you can sort of follow their progression through the story through the 4 acts. This is for free. I'm not selling it, but it's on there for you to download. So feel free to do that. Yeah, otherwise, I appreciate you joining me, and I hope you all are making progress on your stories, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.